Howdy y'all, it's Chris with Shell Fitness, your favorite personal trainer with a belt buckle. Today we're going to be going over progressions and regressions for the main movement patterns. Before we get into that, make sure to follow us on YouTube and all of our social media platforms. If you have any questions, leave a comment in the comment sections below. I did a tweet the other day, and that tweet was, if you're a great coach, you program movements and then you progress and regress based on the client's needs. If you're a crappy coach, you're just going to give them a bunch of exercises. The harder the better. Novelty's better, right? And that's definitely not the case. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the main movements, a squat, a push, a hinge, a pull, unilateral, and we're going to start with the most basic, and then we're going to progress to more difficult. Now, just because you have an exercise that's progressed, you always got to look at the fundamentals: progressive overload, SED, specific adaptation to imposed demand. So we're going to start with the basic, most regressed squat variation. I know a lot of you will probably say body weight, right? But it's not a body weight squat. It's going to be a sissy squat. Sissy squat would be when you're holding on to something. I know it's not the most politically correct today, but that's what they call it. You're going to hold on, and then you're going to go through the movement, squeeze at the top. So you're taking away stability. This exercise will begin to program into the brain what the proper movement looks like. As we progress, we're going to get into a body weight squat. Just your prisoner squats. Prisoner squats would be here. And then one of my favorites and probably go-tos would be your goblet or any type of load resistance in front of you. So a goblet is great because what that does is it gives it makes you engage the core due to the counterbalance. So if I'm holding the dumbbell here and I'm coming down, my core has to get engaged. You see a lot of people when they try to squat down here with the body weight, they lean forward because they don't have optimal stabilization in the core. So you give someone a load here, or if you really want to fix it up, light load, hold it out straight in front of you. It just cleans up the squat so much. For the longest time, I didn't squat with my clients. Why? Because I was a terrible coach. I would go to the leg press and I would go to machines because I didn't know how to teach people how to properly squat. I could do it. This is how you squat. But my clients couldn't. I did not know how to properly cue them until I read in a Men's Health magazine the plate loaded in front of you squat variation. And then the goblets came out, and that's probably one of the best exercises to start out your beginning clients, goblets, because it forces them to engage their core. Now as we progress from the goblet variation, we're going to get the back squat and the front squat. The load on the back, load on the front. Again, the front's just going to engage the core more. For some people that have disc herniations, doing like a Zercher or a variation would be better for them because for some, the load on the back, the axial compression irritates them. From a back squat, that's where we're going to get into overhead. Here, load. You got to make sure you have proper flexion before you even get into that movement. How many times do you see trainers start out with the back squat or doing an overhead squat when they don't have the basic requirements? So you look at the individual, screen them first. Generally, for our clientele, I start out with a goblet. From there, I'm able to determine, can I progress into a back squat, or do I need to regress and start with a body weight or a sissy? Some people will start out and assess the body weight, but most individuals that we work with don't know how to properly engage their core. So you do a body weight squat, you're going to get all this dysfunction. Starting with the goblet, it eliminates a lot of that. It's all about that neurological programming. So we're going to progress from the squat variations into push. Now before we get into push, we're going to do more videos, and you're going to see that we're just going to take the squat, a back squat, and we'll be able to do progressions and regressions just from that. So 10, 15, 20 different exercises. High bar, low bar, variations with the Zercher, etc. So push. Again, a lot of people are going to start out with a push-up. Terrible form. We look like a T. We're pressing. We got this thing with the neck like we're at a rave. I don't know what's going on there. So simple, most regressed wall. Let's push it around here. Make sure the individual from behind or a bird's eye view that they look like an arrow. We want to look like an arrow when we press, not a T. If the shoulders and the elbows are flaring like this, it's not how we do a push-up. You got to bring it down. Hands are going to be under the shoulders. First, lead with the elbow back. From the wall, we would go into some type of bench. or a table. We have a bench down here. So we're progressing from the wall. Basic, a little more challenging. Then we're going to do an eccentric push-up. I don't know if the camera's going to catch this, so sorry if we're not, but we're going to get into here, slow down eccentrically all the way, and then worm yourself up. So again, it'll look like this. Slow, 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 all the way down, and then you worm your way back up into the push-up. So you're going to see that just a regular push-up is like a 6. It's not easy to do, and the more clients you work with, you're going to realize, holy crap, people can't do push-ups. We got to work on the push-ups. So why are we doing all these other crazy exercises that aren't appropriate when they can't master the basic push pattern? From there, you're going to get into all various types of one leg, one arm. One arm would be your most progressed single arm push-up. Plyometrics all over here. Plyos. How many times have you gone to Barry's boot camp when they're doing plyo push-ups with beginning individuals? Take the individual, see what they can do, progress, regress. Weights, banded, all of that's going to be down here closer to 10. Master the basics and then progress. Hinge pattern, that's going to be your deadlift and so forth. The basic is just going to be a standing, I call these wall butt touches. So you're going to stand about 6 inches from the wall. Pretend like there's a dresser behind you and you want your hips or your butt just to close it. Squeeze. Push back. Squeeze. So see if we can get it over here. Just the hips coming backwards. Squeeze. You progress into a band. It's going to be a little harder to demonstrate, but you put this, I guess this will work, and teach the individual to engage the lats. Pull it back into the body, butt back. People tend to go forward with the hinge and not initiate with the hips coming back. Squeeze. This is a great exercise to really groove the hinge pattern because you're teaching the individual to engage the lats. Boom. Hump the bar at the top. Boom. Don't get eye contact. It's creepy. It's a great exercise. And to really, as I said, just hone in on that hinge pattern. Then we're going to go into your RDL variation or a kettlebell. I like to start out with this one a lot because that weight really teaches the nervous system that pattern and engages the core. Then we're going to get into a trap bar. Trap bar is a kind of a hybrid version of a hinge and a squat pattern, depending on what you want to do. You can do more of a hinge or you can make it more of a squat. I like the trap bar because it just teaches individuals to get ready for the sumo, which would be a regressed version of the most advanced, which would be your conventional. Then obviously you have all the variations, Jefferson deadlift, wide variation deadlifts. It'll be fun to do this for the variations of the actual exercises next. From the hinge, we're into the pull. So we're just going to be talking about a horizontal / vertical pull. You'll notice that you can put these into 2 different categories. A vertical push and a vertical pull, horizontal push, horizontal pull. We're just going to put the pulls into one whole category. So we're going to start out with your most basic, which would be a 1-arm pull-up, right? No, Aussie. So you think of a bench press, you have the bar, so there's a bar going across here. You get under it. So now I'm under, pulling up, and you can make it easier by moving your feet closer to your butt. You can do a variation where the bar's almost right here, and you just pull up like that. Aussie into the negative pull-ups. Not a fan of bands. I'm not a fan of machines because it really doesn't teach the nervous system how to do it properly. It's like riding a bike with training wheels. I understand some people need that, but to truly master the pull pattern, you got to just do it more, just like the push-up. Start here, come down. For the pull-up, you get to the top, and you eccentrically control it all the way down. Then you're gonna have your chin-ups, pull-ups, and all your fancy variations over here, weighted pull-ups, etc. Chin-ups are easier than pull-ups because it's the sagittal plane. The lats work better with extension versus adduction, and you're going to get a lot more of the bicep working with the supinated pull versus pronated. So the biceps are not working as much here. It's more lats. That's why it's typically harder. Chin-ups you're going to conquer first. Generally advised with working like an easy bar grip, because when you do it straight, it puts a lot of stress on the radial ulnar joint. So master the chin-up, and then you'll be able to do the pull-ups and then get in the weighted version. Last but not least, and my favorite, unilateral, in my experience, probably one of the most abused movement patterns out there. What do you see online coaches programming all the time? Lunges. Lunges, we're going to work backwards. Bulgarians are the most advanced unilateral exercise. Split stance, or Boyle calls it rear foot elevated split squat. That's hard to do. It's a great exercise, don't get me wrong. And we probably should be implementing way more because of the frontal stability that we have to incorporate. Lunges are right next to it. So your regular lunges, and we have reverse lunges, would be before. How often do you see coaches implementing this stuff right away? It's just not appropriate. We're not used to grabbing cookies like this. We squat all the time. We sit down, we come up. We're not very functional unilaterally. We need to work on that, don't get me wrong. But the most regressed, where we should be starting, with step-up variations. Start low, 2-3 inches. We walk upstairs all the time. Then you work on aspects within the step up. Work on a higher step, and then you're going to work on the descent, or the eccentric, sorry. So you start up, imagine my foot about maybe 6 inches, and you work on just coming back as slow as you can. That's going to get you into being able to properly work with unilateral movements. From here, like the most basic would be a pull lunge. So you have pull, hold it on this, and then you work with the reverse. So you're taking away stability. Dr. Russin gave an example in one of his course. And before you can start lunging, you should be able to do a clock or pendulum lunge like this without having that other foot touch down. Piece of cake. Do you screen your clients to do this before you take them through a lunge? No, they come in, you give them weight right away, and say, okay, do walking lunges. In my opinion, the unilateral movement is one of the most abused what trainers implement with their clients. So here are regressions, progressions. To summarize, we have our 5 main patterns: our squat, a push, hinge, pull, unilateral. Again, we can get into vertical, horizontal, but we're just going to take these 5. Start with the basics, and then you progress. So a great coach is going to look at the individual. Doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 100 years old, and you're going to put the exercise that fits the individual. Maybe it's a body weight squat, eccentric push-up, kettlebell deadlift, negative pull-ups, and maybe you start with some eccentric single leg step-ups. Program the variables based on the individual. If they've never exercised or they haven't worked out with weights in a long time, 10-15 reps, 3 sets. If they have a better capacity or workload capacity, 4 sets. Start getting down to 8 to 10 reps. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Make sure to follow us. Progressions and regressions.